Why did I join though? I really joined. It wasn't some crazy why in terms of, hey, I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to do, you know, anything like that, especially because I joined before 9/11 happened. Um, it was more of a, I loved movies like Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, Braveheart, those kind of battle hardened movies and combat movies. And so I wanted to do things like that. I wanted to skydive. I wanted to ride dirt bikes. I wanted to shoot guns. I wanted to do all those kind of things. And I wanted to be part of a close knit team. And this is what called to me. And there's several of them. You could go be a Navy SEAL. You could go be a Green Beret. You could go be a Ranger. Um, but this is what called to me because at the time, you couldn't just come in immediately and be a SEAL. You couldn't come in immediately and be a Ranger or a Green Beret. You had to go do another job first before you could then apply and cross train into those jobs. Air Force was the only one that right out of basic training, you could go into the pipeline. And as soon as you graduate the pipeline, you could go to combat dive school, you could go to free fall school, airborne, and basically get all of your kind of advanced qualifications right out the gate. That way you could, and the intent behind that was so that immediately you could go support all these different entities. But that's why I joined the Air Force. And originally it was to be a PJ, but and that's only because I didn't know what combat control was about. And while we were at NDOC and in the pipeline, they actually explained what a combat controller was, and so gave us the opportunity to switch. And then I swapped, just because I enjoy medical stuff, but at the same time, it doesn't call to me like working with planes and dropping bombs and that kind of stuff. But that's really why I joined, is because I'm an adrenaline junkie and I wanted to get after it and I wanted to be part of something bigger. Um, Now, my why has changed throughout the years for sure, and has probably changed, 4, 5, 6 times throughout the 20 plus years that I've been in. And that's just because I've grown up as a person, I've matured as a person, my views of life have changed. So there's a lot of things that change your why. And for example, my why now is not necessarily to just go hit the adrenaline button and just keep going, even though that is a lot of fun. It is more, I try and set the community up for success. I try and set the people within the community up for success. So that's my why now, is making sure that we are on a trajectory and folks are on a trajectory to succeed and be ready for whatever comes next. So don't you need to have a good reason of why you're doing something, especially when you're going to go into a put yourself into a community like this and put yourself through all of that suck that is going to happen to you in the pipeline, because that is real. And you do need something to fall back on when you are not getting a breath. And by not getting a breath, I mean you're already out of breath, you're stressed at a level that you can't imagine, and you just using buddy breathing as an example, you pass the snorkel over to your buddy, he gets a breath, you bring it back to you, you have now missed your second breath, you have not been able to breathe, and you need to be able to go, okay, this is why I'm doing this. It is not the cadre being, have any kind of personal vendetta against me or anything like that. This is just training, and they want to see what I'm made of, and they want to see how I'm going to react when I'm put into that kind of situation. Am I going to pop up and flail around and make a scene, or am I going to put in the work and get to work? Because I need air and my buddy needs air, and I care about him more than I care about myself. So I'm going to feed him the snorkel constantly, and he's going to do the same to me. And then what do you know? I get a breath on the third time. It happens. And so during those, dark times and dark places, you need to find whatever it is you're doing for. And it doesn't need to be some virtuous, this is my why, and I'm some kind of stoic or anything like that. It doesn't need to be anything like that. If it is, hey, right on, cool. But it could be as simple, because I'm a simpleton, as, man, I just want to jump out of planes, shoot guns, and be part of a small team that's kicking ass. And the things that you read about, the things that you see in a movie, that's what I wanted to do. Let's see, man. And again, I've got a couple things that I wrote down here right before hopping on. So it's in no order, but some of the places that I got a chance to travel during my time in, and you know, different jobs have different travel. So if you come in and maybe you're um, a personnelist, or you do admin stuff or something like that, you are likely not going to get as many travel opportunities as, say, somebody like me or a PJ or a special reconnaissance or a TAC-P, but you're still going to get a chance to travel. Like maybe you get orders overseas so that you're living in the United Kingdom or Spain or Japan or Germany or someplace like that, or even another state that you've never been to. You're going to get those chances. And you may even get a chance to deploy too. I know that deployments are dwindling, or at least decreasing a bit from what they were. But man, I would not sweat that too much, because there's always going to be a place to go. There's always going to be something that needs to be done, and you never know what's right around the corner. Not that I'm hoping for it, but we seem to always find ourselves in some kind of conflict, if you will. So, but man, you're going to get a chance to travel to some incredible places, especially if you end up being Air Force Special Warfare. So you've got a couple of different bases that you could end up being stationed at as your first team. You could go to Joint Base Lewis McChord, which is just south of Tacoma, Washington. You could end up in Fort Walton Beach or Hurlburt Field at Fort Walton Beach, Florida, in the Panhandle. You could end up in North Carolina at Pope Army Airfield or near Fayetteville, North Carolina. You could end up in the United Kingdom, right near Cambridge, up kind of north of London, about an hour and a half, which is an amazing place to live. And then you could also end up in Japan, which is right in Okinawa. And the other stateside place that I forgot to mention is Clovis, New Mexico. That's one of their new units that we have out there. Now, you'll probably hear, if you do enough research and you hang out in these, watching the podcast, or even in some of the forums long enough, you'll hear about some consolidation measures. But what I would tell you is, don't hang your hat on that kind of stuff, and don't make decisions based off of that, because the military changes constantly and it evolves constantly. So some of these decisions that are put into place, I've seen them turned around in completely. And I'm talking like big changes. For example, when I was over in the United Kingdom, they were going to close that unit down and consolidate back in the States. And that was, the a whole bunch of generals in the Air Force and Special Operations Command that were making these decisions. And at the time, I don't know, at the time, maybe it made sense. It didn't make sense to me at the time, and it still doesn't make sense to me now, but that's the decision they went with. So they stopped sending people out to Mildenhall out in the United Kingdom. And so our team started dwindling, or the whole squadron started dwindling down. And then once they said, a new command came in and said, nope, we're not doing that. We're going to remain. In fact, we're going to plus up. So believe it or not, that was a big decision and a big change. So then, again, we didn't go away. Like, we started plussing up and getting more people in, but that was, everything was already in motion. Money was spent. Things were going to start moving back. And then somebody came in and said, no, we're not doing that, and changed the course of that movement. So, if you hear the Aspect War 2.0, you hear the consolidation of a couple of units. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But I wouldn't base the fact on whether or not you come in to do CCT, PJ, SR, TAC-P. I would not base your decision off of that. It's just, man, there's so many other variables and so many other things that you could base whether or not you're going to come in or not, than whether we're going to consolidate at a Tucson, Arizona, or something like that. So that's what I would say to you. But you're going to get a chance to travel like you would not believe. I haven't actually given an account of how many different countries I've been to, but I can tell you that there are countries that I forgot I had been to until I looked back on some pictures and realized, like, oh man, I've actually been to this place because I had a picture with a sign or, the geotag on a picture. It's like, man, that's a lot of countries. And there's a lot of countries that I've been to back in the day that I definitely probably wouldn't be able to step foot in now without something bad happening. And it's not because it's me, it's just because tensions in that country have kind of gone bad. So